Good afternoon. Welcome to the 12 October meeting of Hardin County Fiscal Court. I'd remind you that this is a voting meeting. If you have cell phones, please turn them off or put them in vibrate mode. We'll begin with a roll call, if you would, Ms. Donnelly.
Doug Goodman. Here. Williams. Clem.
Here.
Wiseman.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Ronnie Goodman.
Here.
King.
Here.
Judge Barry.
Here.
Easter.
Mr. Doug Goodman will lead us in the invocation, and Mr. Ronnie Goodman in the pledge, if you'll please stand.
Join me in prayer. Dear God, our Heavenly Father, as we're assembled today, we give you the praise and glory. We ask you to guide us in our decisions. May the decisions be for the betterment of Hardin County. This we ask in thy name. Amen.
Would you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin with department reports this afternoon. And first up, we have Mr. Mike McNutt with Animal Care and Control.
Hello, everybody.
Afternoon.
Next slide, please. For the month of September, we adopted 51 dogs, returned 26, rescued 3, and euthanized 10. Next slide. For the year to date, we actually almost more than doubled their adoption. So I guess being open and not having to go through the online thing to see the dogs has helped us out a great deal. Next slide. For the year to date, we've rescued 35%. That's significantly up, and I'm not for sure where we're going to end up at for this year, though. A lot of the animals that we need to send across Canada, they raised their restrictions on a lot of stuff that's happening there, so it's kind of cut into what we're used to sending out to rescue. Next slide, please. For the year to date, our euthanasia at 7%. That's pretty good considering being closed like we've been. We're pretty happy with those numbers. Next slide. Our dog adoptions are at 63%. That's up 28% compared to the last year. Next slide. Our return to owners are at 26%, which is pretty much the same as last year, so that's pretty decent. Next slide. Our calls are down 45 compared to the year before. Next slide. The September pie chart, we are 34% were in the unincorporated areas and 66% were in the incorporated areas. Next slide. For the year to date, the unincorporated is at 40% and incorporated is at 60%. Next slide. For the overall shelter release rate, we're sitting at 92%. So that number is dogs and cats. Only 8% of what's been brought to us has had to be euthanized. A lot of that is hit by cars. Some of them are animals that medically we could not get sound enough to adopt out. It would be adopting somebody else, a problem, or sending it to rescue. The cat live release rate is at 92%. Next slide. The monthly live release rate for the cats is at 92%. Next slide. We've had 828 visitors come to the shelter, which is good considering everything going on with COVID. Next slide. We have Dr. McIntyre. He started with us on September 1st. His first month, he did 255 surgeries. He's a character. I can't wait for y'all to meet him. He's wonderful. The entire staff is drawn to him. He actually teaches the staff, which is what I think Daniel and I both wanted to see. He takes the time to explain why something is. Sometimes he takes a little too much time. He's kind of like me. He does like to talk. But just having him there has just been phenomenal. And all I can say is the future belongs to us. I mean, especially with him with us, there's nothing we ain't going to be able to achieve. Next slide. We did our first Radcliffe Rabies Clinic. We serviced 92 animals. That was on a Saturday, and it was after the big one we had here. We're going to try and spread out a little bit more and do these clinics to help people get their rabies shots. Most of these people that we see do not go to a veterinarian, and it's kind of obvious. But the bottom line, it keeps the community safer if we can get those rabies shots done. Any questions?
Comments for Mike? Thanks for a good job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And next we'll hear from Emergency Management, Mr. Bryce Shumate.
Good afternoon, Judge and members of Fiscal Court. I have to check this remote to make sure, because last time it wasn't turned on and Robin got me pretty well. We want to try to keep not only you all informed, but the folks that are at home watching this on HCEC TV. We're getting ready to come into winter weather. We could still have tornadoes. So one of the things that we want to make sure that we talk about is building a disaster survival kit for your home. It includes several things. We put one of the pre-made kits that you can go online and get, and you don't have to do it at all. You can actually buy them, but they're really easy to make. And one of the things that we've got to think about is nowadays, if we have a disaster in this area, it may be up to 7 days before anybody can get to you. So we try to make sure that people understand that you want to make sure that your disaster or survival kit for your family lasts up to 7 days. It used to be 3 days is what the federal government recommended, but nowadays with so many disasters occurring and so many people in our community, 7 days. So looking at water, one of the most important things, a gallon per person per day. And of course, we don't want to forget our furry friends. They get an ounce per pound of animal per day. So make sure that you put enough away for them. Again, 7 days worth of food supplies, non-perishable. I was going to, too bad Magistrate Easter's not here, I was going to point out the Cheez-Its there. You know, he likes those, so we've got to make sure we have those in there. And plenty of canned foods. And something that our young people don't know anything about nowadays, you got to make sure that we've got a manual can opener in with that, because there's a good chance, unless you have a generator, which we strongly recommend you have. Lots and lots of people from our, and I hate to even mention this word, ice storm many years ago did not have a generator. So you need to make sure that you have this available. Disposable plates and utensils, because you're not going to have any place to wash those possibly. If you're not able to get to water, we don't know, we can't always depend that we're going to have that luxury of having running water. Pet food supplies, 7 days. We can't forget our furry friends again. Make sure. Now, I realize that somebody at home sitting there goes, why did they pick out those brands? I just copied and pasted off the internet, folks, so please don't get after me for these two brands, but make sure that you have enough of a supply for your furry friends as well. A NOAA weather radio. In fact, most of the sites recommend not only a NOAA weather radio, but also one that's capable of receiving AM and FM sites, because you want to be able to make sure that you're able to receive news from outside your home. So the NOAA weather radio, and if you notice, that one has a hand crank on it so that you're able to generate your own electricity there. Most of our NOAA weather radios have batteries, but you know, it's quite all right to have one of those and a regular AM/FM radio with batteries. Make sure you got a flashlight and extra batteries for that flashlight, and a first aid kit, a well-stocked first aid kit. And if you're not sure what you need to put in that first aid kit, please Google or go online and look up what kind of items you need to put in your first aid kit, and you can do that. It doesn't have to be in a nice little plastic box like you see this first aid kit. It can be in any kind of canvas bag, anything that you can keep all that together and then label it so that you remember and know what that is. A whistle. Everybody that has looked at this, what's the whistle for? In case you have a tornado and you have debris on top of your safe place in your house, you would want that whistle so that you could let those folks that are looking for survivors know that you're there, because they may not be able to hear your voice, but that whistle is a loud shriek. And the police officers out there know what I'm talking about. Make sure you have plenty of masks right now, because not only for COVID, but this is more for dust and debris is what they're thinking about for these masks. Also, a toolkit. You always seem to need tools when we have any kind of natural disaster that occurs, or man-made disaster that occurs when we're out there trying to survive in our house. Cell phone charger, battery backup. Again, you may not have electricity, so these cool battery backups, I keep one in my desk. I've gotten to use it several times when we've been out looking for those folks that are lost, and we use this battery backup because you can drain a lot of power out of your cell phone real quick. So these are handy devices. They're very inexpensive, and you can get these at any of the big box stores and online. Prescription meds for 7 days. This is one thing that a lot of people will overlook. Make sure that you keep, especially as we're getting into this winter weather season, make sure your prescriptions are kept filled so that you don't run out. People are saying, well, I can still go to the drugstore or the pharmacy. The problem will be is if there's electricity out, they may not have the computers online to be able to see whether it's time for you to renew or the information for you to get those things filled. So that's a very important thing that we make sure. Infant formula and baby food, 7 days supply. I understand this real well now, having a grandbaby, making sure that you've got this set up and can't forget about them, and they won't let you forget about it either. Here's the hardest thing. Cash or traveler's checks. They recommend truly that you keep $2,000 for a week-long event. You never know. Here's the problem. If we've got a power outage, your ATM machines, you're not going to be able to utilize those because they don't have any power to them. You're not going to be able to get cash out of them. People will not take checks. You'll get to, we found this quite a bit during the 2009 ice storm. Several of the places you couldn't use your ATMs, you couldn't use your debit card at the business because they couldn't scan them, they didn't have the ability, the lines weren't up. So it's very important that if you hear this is coming along, now I'm not telling everybody go out and get $1,000, $2,000 and stick it in your house, but if you hear that a storm is coming in ahead of time, and we've been lucky the last several years, we've been able to pre-plan some of our generators for some of our shelters and being able to look at those things. So make sure that you're paying attention a long ways out, a week ahead on weather, and you'll know whether you need to get some money out to put back. Sleeping bags and blankets naturally keep warm. We may not have a form of heat. Extra shoes, extra clothing, heavy coats. Another thing that we got to make sure that we have on to put back. And you know, everybody that's doing this is looking, where should I put this? Where can I keep all this? You need to make a safe place in your house that not only you know where to go, but your children know where to go also in case you're not there when this disaster happens. Fire extinguisher and matches. It's just a coincidence. These are both on the same slide here. Matches in case we do have an alternate form of heat. You've got a fireplace, you're able to start a fire. Make sure you have not only matches, but dry matches in case we've gotten leaks in the roof, we've got holes in the roof, we're not able to keep everything dry. And then for obvious reasons, you want to have a fire extinguisher there in case we do have electrical that is arcing and causing fires in our house. We want to make sure that we have those with us because we're talking about all kinds of possible disasters that we're thinking of with this survival kit. Hygiene items for everybody. You know, we got to make sure that we've got everything there. No sense, we're going to be close together. You don't want to smell bad. And games and puzzles for the kids. They're going to be absolutely freaking out. Jenny, the county attorney, Jenny Oldham is sitting there shaking her head. Yes, you got to make sure that we've got something that is able to occupy their time, keep them entertained, because we won't have Coco Melon and we won't have anything else on there for them to watch. So make sure that you've got that going on as well. And that's probably almost as important nowadays as the food that you put back. Any questions?
See, I'm gonna have to build onto my house.
Well, and, and I know this looks like quite a bit. Once you start putting it together, it actually is not a place that will take up a lot of room, but there are things that we don't think about. And in order for emergency management to keep everybody informed, every time that we present, which is every other month now, we're going to talk about a safety item in our community, especially not only for you all, but the folks at home that are watching this as well, to keep everybody a little bit more prepared.
Any other comments for Bryce? Thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, we do not have any ordinances agreements that we need to discuss today or approve, so we'll move to the consent agenda. Those items were included in your packet. Are there any corrections that need to be made?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Doug Goodman, second by Mr. Bill Wiseman.
I do have a correction, I think. When we're talking about buying Peterbilt trucks, there's 6 of them, right?
Correct.
Okay. It says 60.
In the resolution or the,
I'm just talking about in the minutes of the.
Minutes are.
Oh, in the
I'm sorry
minutes.
for that.
Yeah.
Must it?
so we need to correct
We just need to change that from
the
60 to
minutes
6.
from the Public Works meeting?
Yeah, it was.
But now, if we can afford 60,
Sure.
We can just send the bill to you.
well, I was thinking that maybe Dwight,
I'd be going with 54
what,
there.
3 trucks for each driver he has?
Probably we don't have any drivers.
Oh, my goodness.
Get the trucks, but don't have anybody to handle them, right?
Is there anything else other than that correction?
My apologies, typos.
If not, we have a motion and a second to approve as corrected. Any other discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Donnelly.
Clem,
Yes.
Wiseman,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Ronnie Goodman,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Judge Barry,
Yes.
Doug Goodman.
Yes.
We'll start around the table today with Mr. King.
Judge, I don't have anything, thank you.
And we'll go with Mr. Ronnie Goodman.
I have nothing, Judge.
Mr. Thompson.
Just to encourage people who are out on our county roads to be aware that there's much harvesting going on, and you may want to be very careful as you drive them. Remember your speed and drive cautiously.
Mr. Wiseman.
Judge, there will be a solid waste committee meeting next Monday, the 18th, at 3 o'clock in the room across the hall. Everybody's invited. That'll be it.
Mr. Clem.
I see our coroner's office is losing a long-time member of that department, and just want to wish Spanky a good retirement, and he's been around a long time, and appreciate his service. And I also want to remind folks, please don't drink and drive, and don't text and drive.
Mr. Doug Goodman.
Have no item, Judge.
All right. Ms. Donnelly, anything from your office?
Well, anyone interested in running for public office, the filing date starts November the 3rd and it ends January the 7th. So keep that in mind. It's earlier, the ending date's earlier this year, January the 7th at 4 o'clock. That's it.
Ms. Oldham, anything from your office?
I do, actually. I just want to introduce Catherine Clemens. She'll be with us in closed session, but she's one of our newer assistant county attorneys. She's actually been here a year, so I'm a little late in introducing her. But she comes from a Bowling Green firm in private practice, and she's been with us a year. So she's been working a lot with planning and with code enforcement, and also as a criminal prosecutor. But that may be someone that you need to reach out to at some point if I'm not available. So thanks for coming.
All right. As Ms. Oldham mentioned, we're going to have closed session, but before that, I would mention that October 26th is the next meeting of Hardin County Fiscal Court. Be right here in the courtroom at 3:30 in the afternoon, and after closed session's over with for the media, we don't expect any activity as a result of that closed session, so you're welcome to stay and wait if you want, but there won't be any news today. So with that, next item is closed session pursuant to KRS 61.810, paragraph 1C, which is to discuss proposed or pending litigation. Is there a motion for us to go to closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Wiseman. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Donnelly?
Wiseman,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Ronnie Goodman. Ken.
Yes.
Judge Barry.
Yes,
Doug Goodman.
Yes.
Clem.
Yes.
and we'll meet in the conference room.